Hello, and welcome back to another Survivor Survival's Guide to Dead by Daylight. And today I'm going to talk about what survivor you should level first. When I started playing the game, there were only 4 survivors to choose from, and that was Dwight, Claudette, Jake, or Meg. Then they added 3 new characters, Nia, Phil, and David. Next we have the DLC survivors, which are Laurie, Ace, and Feng. This makes for a total of 10 survivors to choose from. 7 survivors if you don't buy any of the DLC. And that many choices to have right when you start a new game can be very intimidating. You wonder who should I choose? Well, each survivor has 3 unique perks, and you can learn these as teachable perks, which you will get at levels 30, 35, and 40. So here, if you go into the survivor info, you can see what each of their 3 teachables are, as well as a description of what these perks do. And you can go ahead and read through the list, but still, you have that question, which one of these teachable perks are the best? You're a new survivor, you don't know which perks are good, which perks are bad, so I'm gonna go ahead and offer my advice. I highly recommend leveling Claudette first for her teachable perk, SelfCare. SelfCare lets you heal yourself without the use of a medkit, but at a slower pace. If you do have a medkit equipped, it increases the healing efficiency of that medkit. And being able to heal yourself is one of the best survival tools, because think of it, the killer has to hit you twice to down you, and you may not always be able to find a teammate after you've been hit once and lose the killer. There are also many situations when you are one of 2 survivors left, and you have been hit previously, and the killer is chasing the only other survivor on the map. So not being able to heal yourself is very bad, because you're making all this noise, you're leaving a blood trail behind. It just makes you really easy to find, and you do not want that. You want to be stealthy and fully healed. Additionally, you can also combine SelfCare with her other teachable perk, Botany Knowledge, for a bit of a boost in your healing, but if you equip a medkit with these 2 perks and have the right add-ons, you can heal yourself incredibly fast. And this can be very helpful in situations where the killer is close, or you think he will be coming close and you just need to heal really fast to not go down to the killer. So this next perk decision is highly dependent on your playstyle as a survivor. If you find yourself always being seen by the killer, you might want to go this route next, and that is getting Feng Men's teachable perk Lithe. Now, I know this is a DLC character, so if you think this is a game you can get into and enjoy, I highly recommend buying the Spark of Madness DLC, or you can wait until it appears in the Shrine of Secrets and grab it when you see it then. Lithe is a really great perk. It is top tier, I think. And basically what it does is that while you're in chase, if you fast fall over a window or pallet, you'll get a speed boost, and then it will trigger exhaustion for however many seconds. So upside of Lithe is that you can choose when to use it and when you get the exhaustion debuff. Downside of Lithe is that you need to be near windows or pallets in order to use it and get away. I think Lithe is superior to the next perk, Sprint Burst, just because you can choose when to use it. If you don't want to spend money on the DLC, or if the Shrine of Secrets doesn't have Lithe in it this week, then you can level Meg next. And Meg's teachable is Sprint Burst. And what Sprint Burst does is that when you hold shift and run, it will give you a burst of speed and trigger exhaustion for however many seconds depending on the rank of the perk. Now the downside to this is that you have to walk more often around the map, because any time you press shift, it will automatically trigger. It doesn't matter if you're in chase or not. So that's why a lot of survivors prefer Lithe over Sprint Burst. But just be aware of that and conserve your Sprint Burst for when the killer finds you. Because if you use your Sprint Burst at, say, the start of the match, and then the killer finds you on the generator and you don't have it up, you may have put yourself in a bad situation. Sprint Burst is still a really strong perk. You just have to get used to knowing when and when not to use it. If you find that you prefer a more stealthy approach, then you should level Jake next instead, because of his teachable perk, Iron Will. Now, what Iron will do at rank 3 is that if you are injured, you will not make any noise. So this can be very helpful since a lot of killers rely on sound to find an injured victim. Instead, you just have to be more cautious though, because especially higher rank killers will know about Iron Will and will be very thorough in their searching, so it can be very risky to run it if you're against a good killer. Iron Will is especially useful when combined with the perk Lightweight, which at rank 3 reduces the amount of time your scratch marks appear on the ground by 3 seconds. This can make you very stealthy because your scratch marks will disappear faster, plus you will be silent when you're injured and can help in losing the killer. Jake's other teachable perk, Calm Spirit, is worth mentioning because it decreases the chance of setting off crows by 100%. So the advantage of this is that a lot of killers will use crows to help track down survivors, and there is even a killer perk that gives them a notification when a survivor startles a crow. But the downside is that it is very dependent on the map, because some maps have a ton of crows and some maps have barely any crows. And on the maps that have barely any crows, Calm Spirit will not be very helpful in aiding your escape. If you have the Halloween DLC, you should consider leveling Laurie. Laurie has a really strong perk called Decisive Strike, and what Decisive Strike does is that if you are the obsession, you know if you are the obsession if you have these bracket things around your profile in the match, and you get picked up by the killer, a skill check will appear. If you hit this skill check, you will be freed from the killer's grasp and the killer will be stunned. Now, the skill check is really hard to hit, and if you are not the obsession, you have to wiggle to a certain percent on the bar before the skill check will appear. In addition to all this, it can only be used once per match. So Decisive Strike, while it is a good perk, it depends on you being the obsession and then you hitting the skill check. This can be a good perk as you learn how to keep your camera on the killer and escape the killer, but I would recommend not getting too dependent on it in your playstyle, because you won't always be the obsession if you run it every single game, and there are better perks out there than just a one-use get-out-of-jail-free card. Bill also has a really good teachable perk called Borrowed Time. What Borrowed Time does is that once per match, for 20 seconds after unhooking a survivor within the killer's terror radius, any damage taken that will put you or the unhooked survivor into the dying state will instead trigger a bleed out timer. Taking any damage during the timer, or the timer reaching 0, will put you into the dying state. So this is basically a kind of second chance if the killer is camping the hook and making the save difficult. It is really helpful for end of the match saves where the exit gates have been powered, because you can usually make it to the exit gate before the killer can get their 2 hits in. This is a perk that makes you a team player, because you can help save your teammates from the hook if they are in a bad situation, and still be able to safely get out yourself. So of Dwight's teachable perks, The best ones are Bond and Leader. Now, Leader is very dependent on your team. If you have a team of everyone who is new and scared to the game, then it won't really work. But if you have a team that knows how to do gens, and there's always one survivor with you doing the gen, then it can greatly help doing the generators faster. But it's kind of very situational on your team. Now, Dwight's Teachable Bond is actually really good, especially if you're playing solo, because it reveals survivors' auras to you that are within a certain range of you. Now, rank 1 is not that good, but rank 3 is definitely worth running, because if you know where your fellow survivors are, you can know where to go if you need healing, you can know where to go if you want to do a generator, because 2 people on a generator is faster than 1 person. And you can also know where the killer is, because if you see a survivor running around, he is probably being chased by the killer, especially if he gets hit. So you know that you are pretty much safe where you are because the killer is busy with that survivor. And you can also know if the killer is coming at you if that injured survivor is running to you, so you can get off the generator and to a safe location before the killer comes over. So I have gone over all the good teachable perks that I think every survivor has, but for the last 3, Nia, Ace, and David, I highly recommend you level these 3 survivors last. Now, David's perks are good, they're not complete trash, but they do require a little more skill in the game and understanding of the game to use appropriately, so that's why I recommend saving him near the end of your journey. But Ace and Nia 100% last 2. If I had to choose between them, I would probably say Ace very last, Nia second to last, just because their teachable perks are not that great and require support from other perks or support from your team. And here is my one last tip. Do not level any survivor above level 40. Before you go above level 40, have every teachable that you want. And let me explain. So when you learn a teachable perk, it does not automatically get learned by the survivors you have. What happens is that it has a chance to appear in your other survivors' blood webs. So you want to stop at 40, because if you go above 40, the blood webs start to become bigger and bigger. So if you have a level 50 survivor, you would have to waste a lot more blood points to get the teachable perks on them than you would a level 40 survivor. Above all else, do not prestige until you have learned all the teachables you want. Because once you have learned the teachable, let's say you're leveling Bill, you could get SelfCare on Bill at level 1 if you're really lucky after prestiging. Whereas if you prestige before learning the teachables, you would never get SelfCare on your blood web. So just to save you time and blood points, do not level any survivor above 40 until you have all the teachables that you want. Now I'm going to demonstrate this on a lower level character. So here I have a level 13 Dwight, but he has so many teachables on him, and he is only level 13. He has Sprint Burst, Balanced Landing, Open-Handed, Quick and Quiet, and Urban Evasion. All those perks are teachable perks learned from other survivors. So quick recap. Number 1, level Claudette. Number 2, Feng or Meg. Number 3 is really your own choice. You could do Jake, Dwight, Bill, or Laurie. Just make sure you save David, Nia, and Ace for last. And those are the survivors that I think are the best to level up first. Now let me remind you again, do not level any survivor above level 40 until you have all the teachables you want. I hope this video has helped you decide which survivor you want to level first, and that it gives you a better understanding of how the teachable perks work. Thank you very much for watching, and good luck out there in the fog.